There it is.
Give it to him and then
Is it the lights?
give it back to you.
Alright, so we're gonna get started now, guys. Alright.
He's in the Queens. Hey, Gord, what's good?
Let's see. So, is she coming back?
Yeah, she's fine.
Oh no, she has to.
Is she taking our yearbook photo?
Oh, Ray is taking. He's
Okay, awesome.
My intro.
Can we do that before
Yeah, no problem. Alright. So tonight, we're going to have a presentation on welfare reform in America. And followed by that, we're going to do a discussion. We're probably going to split up into 2 or 3 groups depending on how we are looking as far as size. So tonight we have 2 seniors giving the presentation. The first is Eric Ostberg, who's going to be attending the University of Hartford next year, and he's planning on studying marketing.
Hawks all day.
We also have Adam Krol, who is going to be attending St. Anselm College, and he is planning on studying economics. So please give them your full attention. Hawks Nation, Hawks Nation.
Hawks Nation, turn up.
It's actually real.
Yeah, you should be good.
Yeah.
Alrighty. Hey guys, we've already been introduced. We're doing a presentation to American welfare reform, and
We like to call it the danger of dependency.
there's just some basic facts you need to know before we start our presentation. The federal government funds 126 separate programs for low-income people, 72 of which pay in cash or some type of benefit.
Right now, we've got 108.5 million Americans on some type of welfare, which is 35% of our total population in America.
Now, only about 50 million Americans live in poverty. That's not even 50% of the amount of people on welfare.
47%, which is a big number of the people on welfare, are on it for way more than 2 years. And
And now, in 2013, we spent $1.03 trillion of the American budget on welfare.
Amen.
Now, here's the irony of it. Because there's absolutely a need for a welfare system. A welfare system is key to a functioning society. It is our duty as citizens of the United States to give back to the truly needy. Welfare is a form of charity. And it is important to give back to people in our nation who are completely incapable of supporting themselves. However, in the words of our 42nd President, Democrat Bill Clinton, welfare is a second chance, not a way of life. Unfortunately, welfare is being misused, and welfare fraud is more prevalent than ever before. This is due to the astounding value benefits offered by our government.
so right now, the attraction to being on welfare is extremely enticing. There's this thing called the work versus welfare trade-off. We're going to start off with some numbers. Right now, in 35 states, the average value of benefits is higher than the federal minimum wage, thus creating a disincentive to enter or re-enter the workforce. And in 13 states, the average economic value of the welfare benefits are equivalent to a wage earner of $15 per hour. In Massachusetts, a welfare recipient needs to earn $24 in the workforce to match the value of the benefits they receive as an average hourly wage of $24.40. All of these numbers are assumed in the average 40-hour working week, which is basically the standard. Now in 39 states, the average value of the benefits one would receive is higher than that of a secretary. In 11 states, welfare pays more than the average pre-tax first-year wage of a teacher. And in the 3 most generous states, which is Hawaii, Massachusetts, and District of Columbia, welfare benefits can exceed the earnings of an entry-level programmer, computer programmer. Massachusetts is actually ranked 3rd out of the 50 states that provide the highest value of their benefits compared to the rest of the country, with an average yearly salary equivalent to that of $50,540. In 8 states, the economic value of their welfare benefits outweighs the pre-tax median salary of that state. All of these benefits that we're talking about include TANF, which is temporary assistance for needy families, food stamps, healthcare, housing assistance, supporting supplemental income, AFDC, etc., etc.
Now, contrary to stereotypes, there's no evidence that people on welfare are lazy. Indeed, surveys of welfare recipients constantly show there's a desire for a job. However, they're not stupid either. Alright? What's the point of working if you're going to get paid more for doing nothing? Let's put this in our terms, alright? You go to school, you work hard, you work your butt off, you do everything you can to get a good grade, you get a B-, alright? Now, would you rather do that, or be able to sit around your house and be able to do what you want? You know, not even just sit around your house, do what you want and get a B+ while other people do your work. What's the logical explanation? Alright? Our welfare system creates a disincentive to work. Further, it seems that a victim mentality is among welfare recipients, which further ensnares recipients into a state of government dependency.
I've personally observed that way too many politicians feed this victim mentality and sustains its base of power by virtue of the benefits that it bestows. I have further observed that the politicians incite class warfare. Mr. Welfare recipient, I may add, the reason you're in this state is because Mrs. Corporate Executive is hoarding all the resources needed and you need to elect me to extract those resources unjustly derived and redistribute those to all of you. This sets the stage for wealth distribution for political gain, and not because it represents sound public policy. The risk here is that wealth distribution leads to shrinking economic resources, and not for the growth of resources in our country. The miracle that is regulated capitalism grows wealth so that all can benefit, and all always do. There is a fallacy that economics is a zero-sum game. If she has $1, it means that he doesn't, because there's only $1 to be shared. When in fact capitalism takes $1 and grows it to 2. One of the themes that I've noticed from the Occupy Wall Street movement way back is the liberal claim that if there were fewer rich people, there would be fewer poor people. The occupiers believed that there is only so much wealth to go around, and that the rich are hoarding it. Recently, I'll give you an example. Recently, Activision, we all know Call of Duty Modern Warfare 3. Yeah. Sales rose to $775 million. The question for the zero-sum gamers, who is worse off because Activision created Modern Warfare 3? Using the logic of the Occupy Wall Street movement, nearly $1 billion that could have gone to help the poor is now in Activision's hands. Therefore, the condition of the world has been worsened because a computer programmer had an idea about a video game that improved the quality of life of others through entertainment. For those who believe in the Occupy Wall Street creed, the solution must be to either prevent Activision from making so much money, or to tax what they make until fairness is achieved. Another example, Hollywood releases their ticket sales each year. Last year it was 10.5 billion. If Wall Street occupiers and liberals alike are correct in their theories, these numbers would represent lost opportunity for those who didn't make any money off the movie. Yes, they made 10.5 billion, but that does not mean there are more poor people because of it. The creation of a blockbuster movie is good news for all. It improves quality of life. Contrary to what many believe, the lack of accumulated wealth creates poverty. The lack of accumulated wealth creates poverty, not the other way around. Zero sum offers an easy excuse for failure. It provides someone to blame for their human condition instead of encouraging self-reliance. As more people believe it, a stream of helplessness and resentment begins to meander through our culture. In short, it says that our individual financial shortcomings are not our fault instead of addressing ourselves. We should blame the rich. Companies like Activision, Google, Facebook, Patagonia, Polo did not exist a few years ago. Yet now they seem to be the pillars of our culture. That money was created from nothing. Their existence proves that creation does exist. Instead of targeting large companies and big earners for punishment, when you should be encouraging and rewarding innovation instead. So now what we have, based on our current system, is a group of entire group of capable individuals who see themselves as victims, who blame their background for their inability to contribute to society. Instead, we need to inspire this demographic of people to make a change. It has been shown in study after study that the best way out of poverty is by entering the workforce, even at an entry-level position. It's the system itself does not provide sufficient incentive to work. That is the real problem.
Fraud and abuse of the welfare system greatly affects our economy. When you're just taking but not giving back to our economy, you are not strengthening anyone. You are not growing our economic pie. All right? The economic strength of the United States is compromised by the amount of money spent on welfare each year. In the next 10 years, it is projected that welfare will cost the country between $10 and $12 trillion. This is a rate that the United States cannot support. The debt will only grow. Isn't that our main concern in all of this? Does it take an economic collapse to see that we are spending too much money in the wrong areas? In fact, Pennsylvania is set to run out of money for welfare in the next few years. What happens then? Now the truly needy, the ones that cannot hold themselves up, what happens to them? The best way to avoid an economic collapse is for as many people as possible to enter the workforce. There is a vast untapped ingenuity that needs to be released from the state of dependency. As I've said before, our economic prosperity is based on who is giving back to our human ingenuity. The more minds that are released into the market, the more our economy will flourish. 2 years ago, the United States was ranked #1 in global competitiveness. All right, now, in 2013, we're #5. This is because our economic pie is not growing at the rate it was before. The GCI is, quote, an insight into the drivers of a country's productivity and its prosperity. It's the civic obligation of every person to contribute to our economic state, not detract from it, so that the truly needy get what they need. This is not happening enough. When welfare is misused, it does much more than just hurt everyone. It does much more than hurt our economy. It affects how nations look at us. When you're economically weak, you become a target for invasion and exploitation. In fact, since 1960, we have spent $19.8 trillion on the war against poverty. Yet, since the Revolutionary War, we have spent $6.98 trillion defending our freedom.
All of our wars combined, 6.98 trillion.
Think about it. World War I, World War II, all the technology created. Still, $19.8 trillion is spent on the war against poverty since 1960, the start against the war against poverty.
So in 1996, America aimed to make a change. By 1995, nearly 1 in 7 children was on AFDC. The typical AFDC beneficiary, that's actually, by the way, AFDC is Aid for Dependent Children. The typical AFDC beneficiary was on welfare for an estimated average of 13 years. And such welfare dependency gets passed from one generation to the next. For example, in a 2002 study, Maureen Page of University of California, Davis found that if a woman's family had received welfare during her childhood, be it AFDC, general assistance, food stamps, supplemental security income, that woman was roughly 3 times as likely to receive welfare as an adult. Under the President Bill Clinton, the 96 reform sought to disrupt the cycle of intergenerational dependence by moving families with children off the welfare rolls and to increase growth. The success of that reform tells an extraordinary story. Within the first 5 years of the enactment of the revamped TANF, which is Temporary Assistance for Needy Families, caseloads dropped approximately 50% as caseloads plummeted. Employment and earnings among low-income single parents surged upward. Employment of single mothers with less than a high school degree increased by 2/3, and employment of young single mothers between the ages of 18 and 24 approximately doubled. Work activities were defined very broadly to include unsubsidized employment, government-subsidized employment, on-the-job training, up to 12 months of vocational education, community service jobs, job search for up to 6 weeks, and job readiness training. You could also go back to high school, earn your GED. All of these were combined under the list of work activities, and eligible individuals were required to engage in such activities for 20 to 30 hours a week. The public overwhelmingly believes that able-bodied adult welfare recipients should be required to work, prepare for work, or at least seriously look for work as a condition in receiving their aid. In requiring some TAMP recipients to engage in instructive activity in exchange for their benefits, workfare, which it was called, transforms welfare from a one-way handout to a reciprocal obligation. Moreover, demanding work as a condition of receiving benefits reduces the relative economic utility and attractiveness of remaining idle on welfare. If a recipient has to work anyway, he might as well hold a job that will eventually provide sufficient compensation for self-sufficiency. These improved incentives had resulted in fewer welfare enrollments, shorter spells of dependency, and smaller caseloads across the country. It also offered those who did require government assistance and support and training they needed to achieve self-sufficiency and to become productive contributors to the broader economy. But now, under President Barack Obama, he reversed this policy that was created by fellow Democrat Bill Clinton. To sum it up, the legal requirement that 40% of each state's TAMP caseload engage in clearly defined work activities for 20 to 30 hours per week will be replaced by a new standard under which the entire caseload can engage in vaguely defined definitions of work for 1 hour a week. This undoes all the improvement we had begun to achieve within this one single program. Again, this did not apply to food stamps, AFDC, only TAMP. Now, I've thought about this for the last week, and I can't seem to think of a defined reason why he would do this, other than to create a dependent class in order to buy votes, to buy power, what have you. It's the only thing I can think of. And we need to go back to this system.
There's a danger of dependency in America, not because people on welfare are lazy, but instead the welfare system is too lenient and entraps people in a state of government dependency. Public policies that disincentivize people from the workforce affects our economic well-being and affects our ability to help the truly needy. I wonder how many potential Steve Jobs, Bill Gates are entrapped and discouraged by political leaders that characterize them as victims. When someone misuses welfare, it affects every person in this room, every person in America. Ask not what your country can do for you, ask what you can do for it. One of the most inspirational lines in history, and Democrat John F. Kennedy is talking about exactly this. We need to give back to America and this amazing place we live. Welfare needs to be reformed in America so that we can create a generation of self-reliance. This will create a spark in our economy and an influx of ideas as human ingenuity is unleashed into the working class.
So now we have a video. Emmett O'Malley's not here, but I'm not doing a video?
But we do have one thing, because there needs to be some sort of solution that we propose. And I just want to bring up, a couple of examples, just for example, around the world. So one system of welfare that seems to be successful is one that's in Sweden. Sweden has very lenient welfare. Now, the average working age people actually working in Europe is at 70%. Now, in Sweden, it's 85%. How'd they do this? One simple idea. They taxed the welfare beneficiaries, all right? It blurs the line between who's a real taker and who's the one, giving, okay? Now, that system has created a spark in their economy, and they have 85% of their working class having a job, working, and contributing to their economy.
England actually recently reformed their welfare, and they took the approach that we did in 1996 in making welfare recipients work for their aid. They also put a cap on the amount of benefits an able-bodied person can receive, so that you lessen the need for dependence on the government. These are a couple. I want to go back to the 1996 reform, personally, but we're open to ideas, and
this is what this club's about. We want to hear what you guys have to say
about our presentation. And I didn't have enough time to talk about some of the other things I want to talk about. That's fine.
So we're gonna actually split this up into two groups. So if you're in the